I take an Uber to Cook County Jail. I look out, it says maximum security. The place is huge, Nicole, huge. I mean, it's about the size of 70 football fields. This is all Chicago. Now, they have different locations, but I mean, I had never been close to it yet. Closest I ever came is I had my car towed once because I was illegally parked. That's my criminal background prior to this. And I'm 70 years old, and I'm saying, what in the world am I doing here?
Welcome to Zestful Aging, the podcast where we celebrate aging with vibrance and we defy the stereotypes of what it means to age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, a psychotherapist of more than 30 years, here to introduce you to my off-the-mainstream guests who will energize and inspire you. My hope is to create optimism about getting older and help you cultivate zest and joy in this season of your life. And I love to hear feedback from you, my listeners. Please drop me a line at zestfulaging@gmail.com. I read every single comment. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, sometimes I learn about a project that is so exciting and so inspiring that I literally can't stop talking about it. And last night at my pickleball group, I told the players about my interview today, and they were just as excited to hear more. Today's subject checks all the boxes I care about, helping those less fortunate, racket sports, and finding purpose in our third chapter. Roger Belair was a successful businessman who was an avid pickleball player. In fact, he learned the game from the son of one of the guys who invented it in Washington State. And one night, the show 60 Minutes aired a segment on the Chicago's Cook County Jail. And Roger noticed that many of the inmates were playing cards or watching TV. And being an avid pickleball player, he commented to his wife, they should be playing pickleball. They'd not only get exercise, but learn valuable life skills like learning from mistakes and how to be a good teammate. And so Pickleball in Prison was born. And the success of his program in Chicago led Roger to prisons from coast to coast, from Rikers Island in New York to San Quentin in California, and a documentary is currently in the works. Welcome to the show, Roger.
Nicole, it's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to this podcast.
Good. We love the same things. What can I say? We're, just like the joy, and it comes through so clearly in your work. And I can't wait to get into it. Let's start from the beginning, though. I know that you were looking at a segment on the Chicago's Cook County Jail?
It's Cook County Jail.
Mm-hmm. Right. Tell me about that experience. Was that the first time that you brought pickleball in?
Well, yes, it was. Well, my background was I ended up writing a couple books, and what happens when you write a book, people think you know something about it. So that evolved into a professional speaking career. And then once I discovered pickleball, I fell in love, of course. Mm-hmm. And I was reasonably good, so I started teaching the game. Mm-hmm. And that was fun too, because I was able to spread the joy with other people. So in 2017, my wife and I were watching Leslie Stahl. She had a segment on Cook County Jail in Chicago. Wow, what a place. About 10,000 people waiting to go in front of the judge.
Oh.
And a standing population of maybe 80,000 people flow through there every year. So in this segment, they're just sitting around. Watching TV, and I said to my wife, they should be playing pickleball. They get exercise and learn some skills. And she gave me a polite nod. We've been married for a long time.
She knows you.
Yeah, and a couple of minutes later, I said, I'm going back there. I'll bring all the equipment. I'll pay my own way, and I'm going to teach them pickleball.
Now, you were in California at the time?
I was outside of Seattle.
Washington.
I grew up real close to where the courts were, where the game was created in Bainbridge Island. And well, that raised an eyebrow. And she said something like, Sheriff Dart hears from a lot of people. Don't be disappointed if you don't get a
Oh.
response. He gets this letter, never heard of pickleball, puts it on the side of his desk. And that night, he happened to mention it to his family. I think he's got 3 kids. I got this letter from this guy, something about balls and pickles. And his 10-year-old daughter puts her hands on her hips, I understand, and said, Dad, I'll tell you about pickleball. So that was the start of it.
Oh my gosh. That's beautiful. Now, as we were talking off mic, I mean, you have had a pretty fancy career in finance. You've written books. You've been in Wall Street Journal, all of these pretty elite places. And now I'm trying to imagine, it's like worlds collide. I'm guessing.
I'll say they did.
I'm guessing you didn't put your Brooks Brothers suit on to go into the Chicago Cook County Jail. What on earth was that like?
Oh, well, I take an Uber to Cook County Jail. I look out, it says maximum security. The place is huge, Nicole. Huge. I mean, it's about the size of 70 football fields.
My
And
these are all Chicago.
This is all Chicago. Now, they have different locations, but I mean, I had never been close to it yet. Closest I ever came is I had my car towed once because I was illegally parked. That's my criminal background prior to this. And I'm 70 years old, and I'm saying, what in the world am I doing here? But, I wasn't going to turn around and leave. I mean, I had a commitment. But those were the emotions that I had walking up to the front gate.
You had some thoughts like, boy, this sounded like such a great idea from the comfort of my home. I want to do it, but now I'm looking at
reality.
Now it's real. It's getting real.
Yeah. And I go through clearance. I find myself in a fairly small room. There's roughly 25 guys in there, all charged with either murder or attempted murder. And my heart's in my throat. I'm thinking of my wife's comments about, is this a good idea? I'm thinking about my dog. I didn't know if I'd be on I just didn't know. I thought I'd give them a little background about how the sport was created on Bainbridge Island. And boy, it was not working. Arms were crossed. I couldn't get eye contact.
Oh, boy. Well, it's the white privilege of San Juan Islands. I mean, this is not, they probably didn't even, have experience with this.
Well, of course, they couldn't relate to me. Most of them are young. They're young enough. They could be my grandkids, most of them. The average age is maybe 20 to 25. All right. And I'm this guy out from Seattle.
Right.
So I didn't know what to do. So I cut my introduction short and said, let's go to the courts. I tossed a few balls at them, gave them some paddles. And within 15 minutes, the whole culture changed. They turned into what I would call like third graders out on the playground.
Oh,
all right.
My gosh.
They're having so much fun just whacking the ball and hitting each other and whatever. And, I say that day, I went for, you know what OG is?
Yes.
Old guy, right?
An original gangster, but
all right.
Yes.
Well, I was referring to old guy. I went from old guy to either bro or dude.
All
right. And they went from not having any interest in what I had to say to listening to every single word.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience. And were you aware as you're watching this, like, what are you thinking to yourself at this point?
There's so many emotions because being inside a place like that is so incredibly intimidating. There's no windows because it could be broken out. So everything's solid. You have to scream in order to be heard. I had the emotion of when I started of not being able to connect at all. And then all of a sudden guys are coming up and giving me high fives. And I'm trying to teach the game. And, there wasn't a person in the room that knew anything about pickleball. All right. And one of my favorite stories from that day is, anybody that plays, it's a really simple game to learn. I mean, you can learn it after breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
and by lunchtime,
Mm-hmm.
you're pretty good. There's only 3 or
Mm-hmm.
4 basic rules that, I teach them the rules. The hardest part is keeping score,
Oh, for sure.
right? And so what we did was we finished the first game. And I pulled everybody in close to the net, and I said, all right, guys, here we have the winners on this side. And, of course, they're puffing out their chests. And we have those
Mm-hmm.
they came in second place right here. And a tradition of pickleball, one of the rules is after the game, we have a group hug.
Mm-hmm.
There's dead silence.
Oh, my gosh.
They heard what I said. You got to realize these guys have been charged with murder, guilty or innocent. They're charged with murder or attempted murder. And you got this idiot saying, we're going to have a group hug. And part of the reason, we're going to talk about some of the places I've been since then. But what I did then is I walked up to the net, pulled them in close to me, put on my paddle. We tapped paddles and said, guys, in pickleball, that's a group hug, and you will do it after every game. Mm-hmm. Now, with your background, you understand exactly what I'm trying to do.
Well, you can't see me this is so moving and such I just keep thinking worlds collide, and then this is like the essence of humanity here. We all want the same things.
We sure do. And I'm jumping forward a little bit, but I can tell you every single day of the year, there's hundreds of guys in prisons after a game saying, group hug everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Every single
on rival gang members, I understand.
Well, let me talk about that. I've been there 3 times. I spent a week in Chicago. The first day was obviously the hardest because then I knew a little bit about what to expect. The rest of the week, was terrific. I went back a second time. When I walked into the gym, I was greeted like a rock star. Guys were standing up, clapping, giving each other high fives.
Oh my gosh.
The third time I was there was they had invited a sports reporter for USA Today.
Okay.
And he did interviews. He talked to me. He talked to the staff. He interviewed some of the detainees. They're not inmates yet. They're detainees.
Okay.
And I thought it went well. And then he calls me up a couple of days later. I'm back in Seattle, and he says, well, Roger, I don't know how to tell you this, but the story's not going to run on the sports page. And my heart dropped. I told my nosy neighbor, I told the guys at the gym, I'm going to have egg on my face.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, oh no. Why'd they kill the story? And he kind of chuckles and he says, well, the editors read the story and they're going to put it on the front page.
Oh.
Front page of USA Today. That's back when they had one single column that was as a main story. That was it.
Oh my gosh.
Now, any of your listeners, Nicole, can pull it up. All right, just Google my name and USA Today.
Okay.
Because the story's a lot like what you would expect. This guy from Seattle has introduced the game, but there's 2 really important aspects. The first is a quote by Jim Edmonton, and Jim's a great guy. But he's in charge of athletics at Cook County Jail. And what he does is in that piece, he says, disciplinary problems are down. Guys want to play so much that they behave themselves because if they get into trouble, they can't play.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that and I said, wow, if you can get someplace by giving somebody a carrot as compared to a stick, everybody wins. Mm-hmm. And isn't it wonderful that they want to play so much that they won't get into trouble? But there's something much more significant than even that. And in that article, when people pull it up, they'll see a picture of me sitting on the bench with Clarence. And as that picture's taken, he's saying, Roger, look out there. Look out in the courts. Well, I look at the courts, and I see a lot of guys swinging the paddle. Sometimes they hit us, sometimes they don't. I mean, I don't see anything unusual. And he says, you just plain don't understand. He says, we have 70 major gangs in Chicago, 70. They have 100,000 members. outnumber the cops 10-1. Look
Oh
out there on the
my
course. You got
gosh.
opposite gang members playing with and against each other. Before pickleball, some of these guys wouldn't even talk to each other. They're enemies.
Oh my gosh. Oh my, the healing power. And what were how did that land for you that he said you don't understand what you're looking at?
It landed on so many different levels because I, like everybody else, lived in a bubble. We have our bubbles and we have our friends that have the same values that we do, same interests. That's why we're friends. And we make
Mm-hmm.
projections about what other people are, how they live, etc. But what that did was really open up my eyes to the culture that so many of these individuals live in. And I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
help but think, I come in from the corporate world, of how many times they had sensitivity training where they bring everybody into a room and you spend 2 or 3 hours and everybody would say the right thing. And maybe somebody might change their judgment or not after they moved out. But more times than not, you just say the right
Mm-hmm.
things as compared to the situation where you have two groups of people that have such hatred for each other they won't even speak.
Mm-hmm.
Voluntarily, they come together
Mm.
over an exercise or an activity and they laugh together. You got to have progress. Progress has to be made when people do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
you asked me that
it's a
question, so that's
profound
my best
healing.
answer right there.
Yeah, it's just such profound healing. Hi, Zesties. Well, we all know that exercise is really important, especially as we age. Some say it's the most important thing you can do to stay healthy. But many of us find that it's really easy to start an exercise routine, but it's hard to keep it up. That's why we see so many exercise bikes and machines being used as clothes hangers come March. Am I the only one who has bought a gym membership that turned out to be a total waste of money? At this point in life, I want to do things that are good for me, but also fun. You'll never find me at a class called boot camp because life is hard enough. And that is why I love my rebounder. What is a rebounder? Well, it's a mini trampoline that has so many health benefits, it's kind of crazy. It turns out that gently jumping up and down provides excellent benefits to our whole body. It helps clear lymphatic drainage, which is basically toxic waste in our bodies. And get this, NASA uses it to help their astronauts reacclimate when they've been up in space. And I'm not even going to go into the improvements in complexion and mood. Let's just say it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're jumping to your favorite music. It's like your own dance party. But if you're interested in a rebounder, please take my advice. Don't buy a cheap one. They can actually be dangerous. I would recommend the one I have, which is a NEEDAK rebounder. It's NEEDAK, and mine's going on about 20 years old. I use it with light weights, and I've actually used it to train for the senior tennis games, as well as my Camino walk in Spain. And it's also great to use in upstate New York in the winter when the weather is awful, which is pretty often. So right now you can get a free rebounder cover at NEEDAK if you use the coupon code ZESTFUL. So again, NEEDAK, NEEDAK. And if you have any questions, check out my YouTube demo. It's my most watched YouTube to date. So happy jumping, and I would love to hear how you like it. I'm wondering, as you're talking about how it's been for you, is it sometimes hard to describe how it was for you looking out at that and what it felt like? I mean, people are like, oh, it's so great. What a great idea. They're getting along. It's exercise. But it sounds to me like, and now I warned you, I'm a psychotherapist,
Yeah.
but it sounds to me like for you, it was life-changing.
Well, it had to be. I mean, how do you go through that type of experience and not have it impact you on some level? And it's even impacted me a lot more because of what's happened since, which is just going further and deeper, doing a deep dive into the topics we're talking about. But what you do is you realize, for my part, I was giving really very little, but the return on investment about how I was really impacting other people's lives. And many times since that time, I've been told that by introducing pickleball to people, it's been life-changing. Well, probably no bigger platform than if you can take people that won't even talk to each other and will laugh together. I mean, look at the difference I'm making in their lives. So it's certainly my legacy.
Your legacy. That is a big, big word. So let's talk about legacy. Why is that important?
I don't necessarily need to talk about legacy, but what I do say is what's happening is it's making the world a better place. So my ego isn't part of this of saying, well, Roger's legacy is this. But if I can do something that is so tangible and I get so much incredible feedback about the difference it makes in people's lives, that is important to me.
Did and I'm not recalling his name, did the creator or the creator's son, have they been able to see this in action?
Yeah, so I would say friendships are found rather than made. You can sit next to somebody for many years and not really get close to them, and then you can meet somebody at a party and just connect. And that's what happened with Barney McCollum, one of the three founders, and myself. He was fascinated by criminal justice. This is before pickleball really took off, all right? And so I would see him maybe once a month, and he saw me go to Cook County Jail and other places, and I'd come back, and he'd want to drill me with questions. Pickleball is the most social sport ever created. And it's really about, because you play the game, this, it's about community. All right. And how important is that for all of us in our society, especially as people age, their circle of friends diminish, and they have a tendency to be less connected with their community. But pickleball, more than any other sport, is about community. And that's one of the things I learned from Barney. But being a player, you understand it. Somebody that listens to this and has never played before, they're just kind of politely nodding because they haven't drunk the Kool-Aid.
Well, being a tennis player and a pickleballer, there's such stark differences. And, one of the things that I say, and I hope this doesn't insult, the pickleball community, but you're playing with a wiffle ball. And you can't take yourself too seriously.
Absolutely.
And so there's something about it that, boy, you really try and you watch the ball and you do all the stuff. But at the end of the day, this is a dumb plastic ball you're clacking around.
It sure is. And what you have on the pickleball court is laughter. Every pickleball court you go to, you're going to hear a lot of laughter. And nothing against tennis. Tennis is a great game, but you're not going to hear that much laughter.
Nope. No, you are not. Yeah. So different. Now, there's a follow-up to this where you have made such an impression and this has been so transformative that it is becoming a documentary. How did that all evolve?
Well, what happened next, and it was because of the USA Today article, I ended up going to a place like, and you're familiar with it because you're a New Yorker, a place called Rikers Island.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Rikers has some challenges, and about 100,000.
So it's called the most violent prison in America. That's the first problem.
Yeah, and I've been there more than once. But the first time I was there, I was there for a week. The deputy commissioner was so impressed with the benefits of pickleball, as far as the benefits we've been talking about, he ordered pickleball equipment for 20 courts.
Wow.
He says, this works. We're going to do more of it. And we want you to come back, Roger. All right.
Good on him to be, for being that flexible and open-minded.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. He saw the light. And then what happened was Florida has the third largest population of inmates in the country behind Texas and California. Florida Department of Corrections got a hold of me. He said, we're impressed. Will you come down and teach the game at some of our sites? I said, yes. The Washington Post found out about it, and they had somebody shadow me for several days. And it always goes great. I mean, it's like passing out free beer on a college campus, and so, by the way, Florida is recently going to add the game to 10 more sites. But when the Washington Post article came out, a producer out of LA saw it and says, I want to make a documentary about pickleball on the inside. And Daniel Ostroff is a great guy. I've been working with him almost for 2 years now. And we're hoping the documentary comes out maybe the end of the year, or if not in 2026.
He mentioned that you're still filming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So where have you have left to film? Where are the places that you're still working?
Well, I told you about New York. I told you about Florida. And then I'm sitting at my desk one day and I get an email from the warden at San Quentin. And I say, holy smokes. The warden. So I call my best friend and I said, you won't believe this. I just got this email from the warden. And he, in a very calm voice, says, well, I'm not surprised. We're catching up with you. All right. And so we had a video call the next day, and with him and a few of the lieutenants. And I thought I'd start by just saying, Warden, let me tell you about some of the benefits. And he said, Roger, stop. I've done my homework. When can you be here? Now, Nicole, I think it's important to realize at that time, San Quentin had more people on death row than any other site in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh, my gosh. And they're aging. That's another
exactly
subject.
Right. That's exactly right. And you'll appreciate this. So, obviously the logistics had to be coordinated of when I go there and all the clearance, et cetera. And so I was dealing with one of the staff, and I says, well, where I've gone before, I've really encouraged the staff and leadership to get involved with what we're doing here. Any chance that, the upper management, the leadership might want to participate at San Quentin? And there was a kind of a chuckle on the other end. It said, Roger, this is San Quentin. It's not your local prison. We've been around for 170 years. The warden has never participated in an athletic event with the inmates. And I kind of accepted that. And so what happens is logistics are made. I go into San Quentin, and San Quentin is like no other place I've ever been to. It's like an old castle or something like that. It's very majestic. Right on the water.
Overlooking the bay,
Absolutely.
Right? It's actually got the most beautiful real estate of...
Absolutely. And these microphones are being put in my face and cameras are rolling. It's like a press conference. And I walk to the courts, and there's this guy at the courts with a paddle and a headband on. And I take a second look, and it's the warden, ready to play. And so,
what was the energy in terms of the inmates, and now here's the warden? I mean, that is such a shift in the whole relationship, right? History. What was that like?
Well, the best way to describe it is, I want to give you just a little more information on that. So the warden plays, well, because he does, the correction officers say, well, we can play too. So here they are in full uniform. Some of the additional staff, but are out there. But to answer your question, there's an award-winning podcast called Uncuffed, and it's done by the inmates at San Quentin. and they did a piece on the day that I introduced pickleball. And during that podcast, you'll hear comments like, a day like no other at San Quentin. I never ever thought I'd see the warden out there on the court. Maybe this was a day that changed the culture of San Quentin.
Wow.
All right.
And tell me again, I know about Ear Hustle, but this is called Uncupped.
And it's done.
Okay.
They have a couple of different podcasts. This one happens to be called
Okay.
Uncuffed. All right.
I'm gonna find that. Yes. So you're hearing this podcast comment on the administrators now on the pickleball court with these notorious criminals.
Right. And part of the backstory on this, because you kind of do a deep dive, and it's kind of like peeling levels off an onion to understand more. In this country, what we do is we say, you did something wrong, you're going to pay for it. And if you do it again, you're going to get more penalty. And a good question to ask, well, what kind of results do we have? And I can tell you statistics that the recidivism rate in this country is about 65%. So within 5 years, once somebody gets out, they're going to end back up in prison. By comparison, Norway is 22%.
Yeah. Oh,
and so what California is doing is they're saying, well, what are they doing right that we're doing wrong? And the mindset in Norway is, you did something wrong. What we want to do is we want to fix that problem, and we want to, they use the word normalize you, so that you end up in society being a productive member of society as compared to coming back to prison.
It's rehabilitation.
Absolutely.
It is not punitive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. All right. And so my timing was perfect for San Quentin, because they were going down that path. They found out about me. The warden said to me recently, Roger, I'm retiring. I've had a very long career at San Quentin and other places. The day you introduced pickleball was one of the 5 top highlights of my career.
Have you been able to really take that in? I mean, you talked about your ego earlier and that this isn't about Roger, but is there any part of you that can really feel how important your, people are not, as we well know, signing up to do this in droves, or they hadn't been before you started it. And showing up in Chicago as a person of privilege and entering that world, and that, and that courage and whatever other words you want to say. I mean, that changed so many people's lives. And I wonder, is there any part of you that can feel great about it, or do you just push it off and say, wow, this is a great game?
No, I feel I'm very honored.
Yes.
I'm very proud of what I've done, but
Yes.
there's a difference between saying it's about me versus it's about the game. And I very
Yes.
definitely say the magic is in the game. It's the way this game
Yes.
is put together that really connects with people, so that they become so joyful. All right. And you know
boy.
that both on the inside and on the outside. I mean, how many friends do you have because you play pickleball that will say, pickleball changed my life?
Yeah.
And you hear it all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. I mean, it's so deeply moving on so many different levels.
Hey there, Zesties! Well, as some of you know, in addition to being a podcaster, well, I'm many things, but I'm also an avid thrifter of high quality garments made from natural fibers. And boy, do I have fun rescuing cashmere sweaters. I just learned this, so you may not know that vintage is anything over 20 years old. So it's really fun when I find something vintage. It's usually really well made, quite different than what companies are producing now. But I have this dilemma. And that is, I can't possibly wear all the items I thrift. So I have opened an eBay store, and I think you might want to check it out. Everything on there is high quality. It's vetted by me, and I think you might appreciate the style. You can check it out. Just go onto eBay and go into Nicole's Garden 61, and that's going to bring you to my offerings. I hope you really enjoy looking at what I've thrifted. And if you're interested in this, I just did an episode called Thrifting for Mental Health that you can listen to for even more fun. So if you have any questions, reach out. But in the meantime, enjoy my thrifted treasures.
I'm curious too, like just to sort of zoom out a little bit. Have you had feedback from some of your former corporate colleagues saying, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Well, I
going to these places.
I left the corporate world in '84, so I don't stay in touch with an awful lot of those people because I went down paths of writing books and speaking career and whatever. But so I don't really have an awful lot of connections still in that environment. But most people recognize it and how it's impacting people and changing the world for the better. Occasionally somebody will come from the mindset of, hey, they did something wrong, they can just stay in there forever. But what they don't realize, Nicole, is, and you're not going to change people's mind, but what they don't realize is 95% of all inmates get out. 95%.
Wow.
So it's not one of those things, put them in there and throw away the key, because they're coming out. And if we can do anything at all to make them better people while they're on the inside, it's going to benefit society once they get out.
Yeah. Well, don't you have a quote that they're going to be our neighbors?
Yeah. Today's inmate is going to be tomorrow's neighbor.
Neighbors. Yeah. What does your wife think about this? Because she obviously was there from the beginning with the 60 Minutes, and she said, "You're going where?" What has she been? Has she been enthusiastic, or how has she been with all of this?
She's very proud of what I've been able to accomplish. But since you asked that, she kind of looked at me and rolled the eyes a little bit about Chicago. But then when Rikers Island came up, she is from New York, and she said, "No, wait a minute. Chicago's one thing, but this is
Rikers."
Yeah. But she says, "I grew up on Long Island. I don't want you going back to Rikers Island." And I said, "Well, I love you very much, but I'm going." And so she accepted that, and she was very happy to see me once I got back.
Oh boy! And she does she do also? You're involved in dogs, and what's that all about? There was a picture of her with a beautiful dog. Is that your family dog?
We don't have any kids, but we have a golden retriever, and I bet you can guess who runs our household.
Oh, indeed, I can.
Because they bring so much joy to us.
Oh boy. For sure. I'm all about the dogs.
Yeah. But anyway, what I wanted to say is you can see kind of where this is going, but people kept reaching out to me and saying, "Boy, this is really terrific. I love pickleball. I have a prison an hour away from where I live. I'd love to go in there and teach, but I don't know what to do. Will you tell me what to do?" And my response is, certainly I'll tell you what to do. I love to tell people what to do. All right. So I would give them guidance, and they'd go inside. And then just about 14 months ago, one of the people that came forward was a woman by the name of Sarah Gersten and she was in Connecticut and wanted to do the same thing. And we kind of connected. And then what we did was we said, well, let's form a nonprofit to support people that want to do this. And in the last year, we've gone from pretty much just starting out, and now we're in 12 different states, and we're in about 45 different locations. And every week, I'm getting maybe 3, 4, 5 inquiries from people around the country that says, I want to get involved.
And remind me what the nonprofit is called.
The website is PICLEAUGE, pickleleague.org. And it's stands for Pickleball for the Incarcerated Community League. So that's what it's called, and that's the website.
Okay. I saw that, and I read about her.
Oh, she's terrific.
I saw that she was in Connecticut. She's a young woman, yes?
Oh, about 35, I guess, early 30s.
Yeah. Okay. So if people want to get involved, what's the best way to connect with you and this project?
Well, the best thing to do is go to that website, and there's a form of saying, I want to know more about pickleball on the inside, and here's my name, address, and where I live, and please reach out to me. So what happens is that all those are forwarded to me. I send them basically a letter saying, well, here's the steps we need to go through, like identify the prison or whatever. Then we talk on the phone. I walk you through the process. I encourage you to send a sample letter to the warden and some supporting testimonial letters, and away we go. And because pickleball is getting to be more and more known, and the wardens read these letters from people like San Quentin and Folsom and Rikers Island, they're saying, hey, if it works there, it could probably work here too.
And they're desperate, I'm sure, to find things to help their community and create a more positive atmosphere, I'm sure.
One warden said to me, if we can get better results with a carrot, I want to do that. I mean, it makes it safer for everybody else as compared to try to keep them saying, well, you did something wrong. You're going to be locked in a cell by yourself for 20 days. So it's one of those things that, frankly, everybody wins.
Everybody wins. I was curious because obviously in researching before I spoke with you, I was looking where in upstate New York, because they said there's some in upstate New York. Is Auburn Prison on your list?
To be honest, I don't know. To be honest,
you don't know.
I mean,
yeah, because it's about an hour from here, and it has the kind of grisly history of being the first prison to have an electric chair, and it is a pretty scary looking place. But it's not too far from here. It's maximum security. And I was wondering whether they had signed on, because I'm sure they would need it.
Yeah, I don't know. We're in about 45 different locations, and it's growing every week. And so, but we can talk more about that later. You're going to need an assistant.
Roger, it was such a pleasure to get to talk to you after reading about this. And I went to my tennis club the other night, and I was because they're also pickleball players, and they went on their computer, they copied the ESPN article, they put it out, and it got so much attention. So there's a lot of people waiting to hear this episode, because they're just, as you're describing, it's just such a great idea, and people really need to hear good news right now.
Well, it definitely is good news, and it's making the world a better place for all of us.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com, to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.